is happening, fellow fantasy GMs? I am JJ Wang. He is the bearded one, DJ Dove. And with our powers combined, we are the Fantasy Couriers.
Well, the draft is done. Now I care about rookies. Before, I was just talking about dudes who played college football. Now in my brain, they have fantasy value. So DJ Dove, I'm all in now. JJ Wang, your hours of film and tape. How are they? What do you think? Did teams make choices that made sense based upon your research, or where do you look if you're looking right now in April 2024?
I think overall, I think most of the things made sense. Of course, there's your running backs going to places you would rather them go other places, but I mean that happens every year. But they're still valuable because there's not too many true workhorse quarterbacks or running backs. Plus, there's always injuries, so running backs are still always valuable. They started to go a little lower, but I mean, other than the Michael Penix thing, I mean, I feel like everything was pretty much obvious, I guess.
Okay, so what we're gonna do today, we're gonna just go through the draft. We're just gonna chat draft today. We were gonna do a mock draft, but we're gonna push that back a week or so, and reach out. Maybe have a couple people jump on with us that we've talked to. That today just was a hot mess of a day. Everybody I hit up, I was like, oh my goodness, if I didn't hit you up, it's been a long week. This was my longest week of the entire 2024. I had like 5 things going on, so I was like, oh, once I got to Thursday, I just slept pretty much the last 3 days. Now I'm good. I'm in fantasy mode. I got to play at school, but everything else is smooth sailing for me. I'm going to get some stuff up on our site. I did discover I might even be able to get us a legitimate web domain, but I learned that with another website that's coming soon. Hopefully that we can.
I have no idea what that means, but all right.
It means we have an address versus fantasy football, fantasycouriers.wixsite. Blah 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 blah. And then people can find us. That'll be pretty cool. So anyway, anywho, I guess the one big news for the week is AJ Brown got the bag of cash, basically 3-year contract extension for a whole boat ton of money. Right now, in my brain, I have rookies pulled up on my computer. Do you remember the exact number?
It was 96 million, I think.
96 million. So he's getting the bag. Does this change? Like AJ Brown's a guy that I've grown to like more, but I've got some AJ Browns. But I don't know why I'm lukewarm on AJ Brown because he just is either 40 points or 12. I don't know. Like, what does this change our feelings on him? Does it mean we know he's consistently with Hurts, or what does this do for the needle on AJ Brown?
I mean, I think it remains him as like a top 10 wide receiver. I mean, he's going to stay in Philadelphia. He's getting paid, so he's going to get money. But they also paid Devonta Smith, so I think they're going to have to give the ball to him too. I mean, I don't know if A.J. Brown will be like a top 5 guy. I think A.J. Brown will be a top 10 guy. I think Devonta Smith would be like a top 10 guy. I think that's how it rolls.
So I ask this question often: is that the best wide receiver tandem in the NFL right now?
I think so right now. It's pretty good.
I mean, it's neck and neck with them. If Waddle steps up the Dolphins, we're going to look at you could argue possibly Minnesota if Addison's so there's all the other ones say if steps up. I mean, you could argue Cincinnati.
Right now, I'm still taking Devonta Smith over all those guys. I think I'm taking him over Waddle. I'm taking him over Addison. I think I'm taking him over. I'm taking him over all the second guys.
San Francisco.
I still think I'll take the Eagles. I think there's a higher upside. I don't know what they're doing there. San Francisco, I think eventually one of them is gone. So as for an endurance thing, I think I'll still stick with Philly.
I think I read a lot about it. I'd be curious to see what happens the next month or so. There's been trade rumors for Debo possibly moving out. Wow, that'd be insane, wouldn't it?
I'd trade Debo. He's older. I mean, his stats have only gone. I know he's a big part of the offense, but his stats have declined since his really big season. And Brandon Ayuk is a younger. I mean, he'd add 1,300 yards. I know Debo's important. I don't know how I would keep Ayuk. I like Ayuk better, but
remember how important Debo is to that team. Remember what we discovered last year, and you've actually bought into my crazy non-stat based importance of a player for a team.
definitely bought into it. I thought, I mean, it's definitely a good coincidence. I'm a conspiracy theorist guy, so I'll buy into stuff like that if you can make a decent, a decent argument. I'm like, sure, I could see a world where that's true. But I also see a world where a younger wide receiver that can gain you 1,300 yards, that was like a third option, a fourth option maybe, I think is probably the way to go.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen in fantasy, I think the Ballers had him as a top 10 running back receiver, basically. That's why he's a top 10. So, anyway, what we're going to do today is we're going to jump into these rookies. We're not going to go through all the draft. We're not going to say, hey, such and such was drafted third. And we're going to start with obviously number one, but you can look that up. We're going to look at them from a dynasty rookie perspective today. I mean, we know in all of JJ Wang's redraft, he's going to have all these guys. That's how it always works out. But we're talking dynasty rookies because that's the hot season right now. If you're a redraft guy, you're probably not even listening to us. But if you're in right now, you're a dynasty guy. You're like, hey, what's coming up? I had a dynasty rookie draft start during the draft. Like it's a untimed clock. One dude took Marvin Harrison. It's one quarterback. So Marvin Harrison went. We're waiting for the second guy. I got a draft starting in 8 days. We have a draft that will pop up in mid-May, another one in early June. Then I have one that starts in early July. So dynasty drafts are going on for the next little while, depending upon your league. When's have you figured out when the other one's going to be, or is that up to Rich?
I have no idea when any of my drafts are. I'm just waiting for an email to say your draft starts in 2 days.
So you passed on the torch. So what we're going to do is we're going to go just the big four positions. We're going to just back and forth, volley back and forth a couple of guys, thoughts we have on them, maybe great landing spots, maybe stupid. Who does it affect? What we think the future holds for these guys, and when and where you should draft them in a rookie draft this year. So let's get Caleb Williams out of the way. People know my feelings. Looking at what he got, we're going to talk about his rookie receiver soon. Caleb Williams, has there ever been a number one draft pick in the NFL better set up to succeed on day one than Caleb Williams?
I think he's probably the safest quarterback in this draft. I think you're going to have a hard time finding somebody that doesn't think he's going to be a success, even a mild success. So, I mean, if you're taking him number one, and we all know how quarterbacks play out, sometimes most of the time, only one or two of these guys is going to work out. And I think Caleb Williams is pretty much a lock to at least work out, at least to be worth playing in fantasy.
I mean, yeah, if you're in a Superflex draft, people know that I'm not a Caleb Williams guy. I still take him 1-1. There's no argument. He's throwing to Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze. He's throwing to DJ Moore. He's got Swift to third out of the backfield. Komet. I mean, and it doesn't get any safer than that. The only thing that will mess up Caleb Williams is Caleb Williams. So if he gets out of his own way, this dude is locked and loaded day one to be. I mean, where would you say, even in redraft quarterbacks, where would you put him in a redraft league now? Is he a 15, 14?
Yeah, I'm sure he'd go in the top 15. I'm sure somebody would like him a whole lot more and draft him super early. So I think if you wanted Caleb Williams, you'd probably have to go, I would say, like pick 8. I think you'd have to start taking after that, at the middle of the second tier, you'd probably start thinking, why not give a shot at Caleb Williams with that offense?
One quarterback dynasty, how early would you say a 12 team? How early would you take Caleb Williams then? So you're looking at the receivers, running backs.
I'm not. I'm not really sure how one quarterback dynasty works because I've never really been in them, so I really don't know where quarterbacks go. But I mean, wherever. I mean, I would take him at the end of the first at least. I mean, I'd rather have the first quarterback than second or third running back or the fifth or sixth wide receiver. Might as well get your quarterback.
Yeah, it depends on some leagues. I'm in one that's transitioning out of one quarterback, one that's in one quarterback. One is quarterback happy. They'll draft him early. The other one's a wait a smidge. But late first is about where the number one guy is. The other guys will drop the mid to late second, maybe third round. So who's a quarterback that intrigues you that you would like to discuss?
I think the safest quarterback other than Caleb Williams, I think J.J. McCarthy is going into an offense with Justin Jefferson and Addison, and then eventually Hawkinson comes back. And I think their coach, McConnell, is quarterback friendly. He's coming from the McVay offense, and it seems like whatever quarterback you stick in that offense, they work to a degree. It's whether it's 3 or 4 games and teams figure you out, or whether it's over the long haul. And I think McCarthy's good enough to be, in that 12 to 24 range. So I think he immediately goes in there as a QB2. I think that offense is set up perfectly for him to fit right in there.
Intriguing. Like, he's the guy, him and Daniels, I am just not sure. They just sort of floating along there. Like, what do you think? Like, Daniels is a little smaller, worried about him getting hit. McCarthy, I, I don't know. Something, he's been hyped up. They couldn't stop Penn State. Would they run 32 times in a row because they could? Was it because Penn State stopped him? Was it because or whatever? Was it because he couldn't get through the defense? It'll be interesting to see. And I mean, with those weapons, kind of like with Caleb Williams, I mean, he's got decent weapons there, and he doesn't have KJ Osborne anymore, so he's in trouble. Now that I know KJ Osborne is a Patriot after the episode a few weeks ago, but I can't argue with location being good for him. And my guy, I've been on this train, and I'm going to be the only guy on this train, I think. But you know who I loved coming in, and he landed right where I said he was going to land, and that's Bo Nix. Bo Nix, you're not a Bo Nix fan. I'm a Bo Lever, I would say. If I can get Bo Nix somewhere, I'd love to have one share of Bo Nix because I love Sean Payton. I love what Sean Payton does. I think that Sean Payton could make Bo Nix walking onto that team with the worst quarterback room in the history of quarterbacks. Bo Nix should start day one, and if he doesn't, then I'm off the Bo Nix train because that team is terrible. Like if Zach Wilson starts over Bo Nix should retire and join the USFL. But I just think with Peyton there, he's going to have Cortland Sutton to learn from. They brought in I forget the name. We'll pop it up in a second. But his number one receiver from Oregon, they brought in to meet up with him.
Yeah,
yep, and then he's got Dulcich there at tight end. Williams is around. He's got decent skill position guys to go to, and if they let him spread the field and he can sling it, it's just a matter if he gets hit and if he can adapt to the pro game from that. Usually in that kind of offense, I think your concern has always been the spread offense that Oregon runs could affect his transition into the pros, where guys are a little faster than they are in college. So everybody's going to be that number one guy trying to kill him. So, have you changed any thoughts on Bo Nix, or do you still think he's total poo?
I mean, nothing's changed. I still think he's crap. I don't think he's going to work out, but I think there's probably a team where I'll take a shot on him just because. I mean, I passed on. I didn't think Justin Herbert was going to be very good. So I managed to not get any shares of him. So I mean, I'm sure there's going to be a draft where he's sitting there probably the end of the first round, and I'm going to need a quarterback. So this is the cheapest you're ever going to get a starting quarterback, and he's most likely going to be the starting quarterback in the Sean Payton offense. So I think it's worth at least taking a shot. So I mean, yeah, I don't like him at all, but I mean, I'll take a shot on him.
Would you take a shot on Drake May? Yes or no?
Absolutely.
Okay, Drake May or Bo Nix?
Drake May.
Ooh, intriguing. Like, I don't know. I have no interest in Drake May. Drake May's like Justin Herbert started out strong, but if you look at what he's done, you might not have been too bad. This year he's throwing to Mr. Can't Catch, Quentin Johnson. There's two guys. One guy might not see the field forever, plus he'll be 84 when he sees the field. And the other guy, I named him earlier, but he's in a decent situation. We're talking Michael Penix Jr., the 8th draft pick in the draft, who just got drafted behind $100 million Kirk Cousins. Probably won't play, 3 years because Cousins has a 2-year opt-out. And Spencer Rattler, who went in the 5th to New Orleans, who has Carr, who looks not that great. So there's a short leash there, and he could be playing. What does the future hold? What scenario could you see where Rattler is ever a starter, and will Penix play before 3 years?
See a situation where Rattler will be a starter if the starter goes down injured, and they need a couple starts out of him. And I think then Spencer Rattler would be a starter, but I don't think Spencer Rattler is a starting QB. I barely think Spencer Rattler is a backup QB. But, I mean, I think he's going to get his opportunity. We'll see. I don't think it's going to last very long. With Penix, I think Penix may get his opportunity. We don't know if Kirk Cousins is going to be 100% healthy. If Kirk Cousins gets his opportunity and Penix sets for a couple of years. I think that's probably the way he goes. Was it a smart move? I don't know. If I like Penix going into this draft and I had number 8, would I say I wouldn't pick Penix? Absolutely not. I don't know what I would do. Like nobody really knows what they would do if they were put in that position. I feel like we would all think differently, but who knows? Was it the smartest move? Maybe 3 years down the road, we'll look back and say, "Hey, this was a great move by the Atlanta Falcons." But right now, it seems to be pretty stupid.
Yeah, I don't hate the move, and I mean what it does to me. The only thing about the move is that they didn't tell Cousins, so it seems like there was a little delay. Like I would have been like, "Hey, Kirk, you're going to win us now." They believe this team is a winning team. I mean, they're in a poo-poo division, so it makes it easier. But they believe they've got a team that's going to make the playoffs, can make a run. Running backs, receivers, they picked up some defensive guys. Like maybe they should have traded back. That's probably the thing that people are saying is traded back because you could have traded back because Denver wanted Bo Nix. So okay, trade up, let Denver move up. The Jets weren't going to draft him. They drafted later a quarterback, but getting him there's it's not a bad they're thinking, hey, we're going to be good for a while, so we're never going to be this high. And I like Penix. He'll just be 28, 27, 28 when he actually plays.
I mean, honestly, if they didn't get him at 8, the Raiders probably would have taken him at 13. So they would have had to have taken him at some point. I don't think the Raiders went into this draft wanting Brock Bowers. I think the Raiders went in there wanting a quarterback that could possibly set for a year behind Gardner Minshew and work his way through. So, I mean, if they didn't take him at 8, I mean, they were going to have to take him at, they weren't going to get another shot at him. So they could trade down to 10, but sure. But, I mean,
these 3 guys, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, Bo Nix. Which one of those guys has a better rookie season?
Well, I'm never picking Bo Nix. Bo Nix is – I'm not picking
– Okay, Jaden Daniels and Drake May.
I think Daniels has the better team at the moment, so I'll go with Jaden Daniels. But I think Drake May ends up being a better quarterback overall than Jaden Daniels.
And then later names to keep an eye on. Joe Milton went to New England. They drafted a second quarterback, and he said he's not going to be a tight end. Michael Pratt, who some guys in the draft had said might be a sleeper. Well, he's in Green Bay. He's not sleeping. Jordan Travis, maybe a patient owner, goes, this guy could learn from Aaron Rodgers and be Jordan Love. Who knows? And then Devin Leary is the new backup for all of us now that you are an owner of Lamar Jackson. Moving on to running back here, we are looking at I'm not excited other than for 2 guys in this group. I don't know about you, but I'm looking at the top 2 guys. Jonathan Brooks fell into Carolina, like that landing spot. Trey Benson fell into Arizona, like that landing spot. Do you agree with me, or how do you feel about those 2 guys?
I mean, I think they're fine. I think Trey Benson is in an ideal situation. Playing behind James Conner probably for not very long, and that offense is probably about to take off. Yeah. With what they brought in with Marvin Harrison. So I mean, you got your young running back in with a very young team. So I think it's going to work out in the long run. I think overall, I mean, it's a running back class. I mean, I think this is how they all end up. I think there's a couple here that are okay spots.
So who would you draft first if it was your pick and you can't trade anything? Would you draft? You're a Benson guy, I know. Would you draft Benson over Brooks because of Arizona, or would you draft Brooks over Benson?
I would draft Benson over Brooks just because I think the team's going to be better, and Brooks is coming off the injury. So I think in the short term, I think it's going to be Benson. But overall, I think Cardinals are in a way better position than the Panthers. So I think it works out for Benson a little better.
And to break my heart, Blake Corum got drafted by the Rams. Is that good for Blake Corum? Bad for Kyren Williams? Bad for Blake Corum? Good for Kyren? What? Huh?
Honestly, I think it's good for Blake Corum. I mean, he's going to a run-first offense. They run a lot. Yeah, Kyren Williams is going to get a bulk of the carries. But who knows how long these running backs last, right? He's probably going to get a lot of carries. So he might get through this season and he'll play a little, but I think there's not too many landings. I didn't think he was going to go to a spot where he was going to be a starting running back. He was always going to go to a spot where he was going to be the number 2 guy. But I mean, you couldn't ask for a better team to go to if you're going to be the number 2 guy.
Okay, there's a whole slew of running backs. I mean, I'm looking on Fantasy Pros now. There are 18, 19, 20 running backs that got drafted. There are some running backs that are so bad, there's free agents in front of them. Who is a running back out after those three guys that you are intrigued by his landing spot, or you might be interested in drafting along the way?
I mean, well, there's two guys that I've talked about over the course of the last couple of weeks, and I think that's Audric Estime going to the Broncos. I mean, I know they got what's his name,
Devontae Williams, but he only got one more year.
Javonte Williams. So I mean, he's been okay, but he really hasn't worked out to where he's been that great. So I think Estime comes into a situation where he might get some run, and if he can get like a game here and there, he might start earning more playing time. And then it's my man Tyrone Tracy Jr. going to the Giants. There's not much in front of him. I know the team is not good, but your team doesn't necessarily have to be good for the running back to have a productive season. And I think this guy's gonna come in and get all the opportunities he can handle. I mean, and if he's got to be good enough, and I think he will be. I think he's going to be plenty of opportunity for him.
Steven Jackson, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe. Who knows?
What about home slice Ray Davis going to Buffalo to be paired up with your boy James Cook?
I mean, it's okay. I'm not a big Ray Davis fan. I mean, he's a big guy, so he'll be like that bruiser third down back. I don't know if Buffalo really plays that way. We'll see. If he can get some goal line touches, I mean, that would be great as well. But Josh Allen seems to take a lot of those, so I'm not really a huge fan of Ray Davis. Plus, he's a little older. So, I mean, who knows?
Hey, bruiser back might be my prediction. I learned my brother's been listening. Hey, what's up, Anthony? When he started talking about that Josh Allen things, I was thinking, like, for me, I can't go podcast. I'll talk about my Dolphins. The Jalen Wright thing, I don't get it, but they just wanted a fast guy. Is Miami the new Al Davis? They just want every guy that's fast on their team.
I think it's an ideal fit. I mean, why not draft?
Great fit, but there's a lot of other holes.
Well, in the fourth round, you're probably going to need another running back. I mean, running backs constantly go down. I'm sure there's a lot of holes. I mean, that's why you got other draft picks. I mean, how many times do you go into a season and only use two running backs? So, I mean, it works in the fourth round. Why not take a shot at a running back that fits your system, maybe?
Dude's fast as the wind. Maybe they'll have him doing some punt returns, kickoff. With that new kickoff return, that's going to be intriguing this year. Be fun to watch. Okay, let's go to the wide receiver. This is a wide receiver class. I mean, we could do an entire show on wide receivers. They go on for miles here as far as wide receivers. We got the cream of the crop, Marvin Harrison Jr. I think we all agree number one consensus pick if you're in a single quarterback. If you're in Superflex, which quarterbacks would you draft before Marvin Harrison?
Well, Caleb Williams is probably the only guy that I would take over. I think Marvin Harrison is the clear one. So unless you need a quarterback, then you would take, like, if I only had one, I need another one. But I think Marvin Harrison's still the way to go.
Wow, interesting. All right, then basically you got the big two. You got Neighbors and Odunze. Neighbors went to the Giants. Odunze goes with Caleb Williams. Are you drafting them in the order they went in the NFL draft, or do you feel more like, because they both have their downside? Odunze is the third receiver. Neighbors, he's in New York, so they're both kind of screwed. Which one do you feel better about?
I think Odunze is going to be a little safer. He might not get as many opportunities this year, but we don't know how long Keenan Allen's going to play. I can't imagine it being much longer, and I think he's going to slide right into that number two. Well, he might end up being the number one guy, but I think he's going to get plenty of opportunities. I think they're going to throw a lot. And Neighbors, I mean, it's tough for him. There's not really a great quarterback there in New York, so I think it's going to be a rough start for the beginning of his career.
Okay, well, let's go with some fast guys here. Xavier Worthy going to Kansas City, fast as the stinking wind. Brian Thomas Jr. to Jacksonville, big and fast. Are you drafting a Kansas City receiver, or do you just go, hey, Rashee Rice fell in, then he's fast as the wind too, just other ways. Had a great year. Are you confident there, or are you looking elsewhere?
I mean, I'm not confident in Xavier. I mean, how many of these fast guys have panned out over the years? I mean, there's always going to be the bust. I mean, yeah, he's going to Kansas City. It looks great. fit it in there. Yeah, it looks fantastic. Will it work out? Maybe, maybe not. I think probably maybe not more, but I'd laugh. I'm not going to say I'm not going to take a shot on him there between picks 8 and 10. That's definitely worth, taking at least one shot on.
Who would you take first, him or Thomas?
I think I would take Worthy first, just because he's in that Chiefs offense, and Brian Thomas. I'm not sure. I mean, Christian Kirk's still a legit wide receiver. They brought in Gabe Davis, so I mean, so there is more competition.
He will have 0 catches at least 4 times this year, so Thomas can catch together.
You're absolutely right, but Brian Thomas and Gabe Davis are kind of like the same player, so it's going to be interesting to see how that works out. I hope it turns out for Brian Thomas a little better, but I think I take Worthy first, I guess.
Is the best landing spot for my favorite named player is Ladd McConkey? Did that dude just hit gold and land in the Chargers to be their number 1 receiver?
I mean, maybe. I'm not sure Ladd McConkey is a number 1 wide receiver. I guess it's possible. I'm not sold on that. But, I mean, I think Keon Coleman also fell into a nice opportunity. I mean, he has a chance to be in Buffalo's number 1 wide receiver. He's big. He's strong. He's a great target for Josh Allen that likes to throw the ball up and someone go get it. So, I think I would rather have Keon Coleman over Ladd McConkey, but I don't know.
I want McConkey.
I don't think McConkey's the number 1 wide receiver.
I can say I'm officially off the AD Mitchell train because he went to Indianapolis and they got other things going on. So he fell there. Not a bad spot for him to learn, but Pittman's the man there. They're not gonna. I think the passing's gonna be down, especially the Richardson running more. You liked Mitchell as to a point, but what do you think about Indianapolis for him?
I think it's clearly the number 2, at least, that best the number 2 guy. We'll see how it works out. I'm not going to say it's not a rough spot. I mean, evidently he's got some attitude issues, so we'll see how that works out going to the NFL where it's a little more strict. So, yeah, I'm not huge because I don't think it's going to be a great big passing offense, but I'm a little disappointed. But, I mean, I'd probably still take him a little later at some point.
Any guys excite you? Who else are you looking at there that Purcell and San Francisco look at? Anybody else that you're like, hey, I'm kind of excited for where they went?
Well, I think possibly, Javon Baker, he went in the 4th round out of UCF. I think he had a great last year at UCF. I haven't looked into him a whole lot, but there are a few people that like him, so I think there's plenty of opportunity there for a wide receiver to break out. I mean, it's possible, but they also took Jalen Polk out of Washington, Rome Odunze's number 2. He was also good. So I think both of the receivers going to New England, I think there's a possibility there. It's a completely different team. You just can't judge it on what the past has been. I mean, it's totally different. So I think these 2 guys are going to get plenty of opportunity.
That's a good call. Are they gonna be the hardest team to figure out this offseason? Because you really don't know. Because Belichick's gone, and we've known 20 years of that mess.
It's completely different. You're bringing in a completely different style, completely different style coach. The offense is going to be different. So I think you've got to look at this like this is a brand new team, and it's not your same old New England Patriots.
So are you interested in? Are you tepid, or are you like, I'm going to let someone else fall on this sword?
I'll take a shot at it. I mean, if you don't take a shot, why are we playing fantasy? I mean, that's why this is the only place you can take chances like this, and it really not hurt you all that bad. So, I mean, as many leagues as I'm in, as many players as I draft, why not take a shot at these guys?
Just a name to pop out just because it's going to be fun to say is how about Ed McCaffrey's second son coming into the league? Luke McCaffrey's going to be down the road from us in Washington. Any chance Luke McCaffrey turns into anything, or is it just cool to say that Christian McCaffrey's brother's in the NFL?
So, mentioning Luke McCaffrey, who's going to be better, the son, Luke McCaffrey, or the son, Brendan Rice out of USC, who went to the Chargers? And they're in need of wide receivers. So he played at USC. He doesn't have to move. He's staying right there in LA. So I mean, it works out perfect. I mean, everybody's going to know him. He's going to get all the opportunity in the world. He's Jerry Rice's freaking son. So if I'm taking a chance on somebody, I'm taking a chance on Jerry Rice's son as opposed to Easy Ed McCaffrey's son.
Well, question. Remember when we did that with Michael Jordan, right? Michael Jordan's kids weren't any good at sports.
Yeah, but none of Michael Jordan's kids made it to the NBA. They all sucked from the get-go.
Okay, yeah. So it'll be interesting. That would be a cool prop bet to be like which generational. I mean, it seems like it would be right for Ed McCaffrey's boy to be better because Jerry Rice got everything, and Ed was a great receiver. So
I yeah.
he was good. I liked watching him play. So let's close out with the greatest position in professional sports. That would be tight end. I don't have my tight end university. I got my fantasy football legend shirt today. Brock Bowers to the Raiders. What do you think about this New England Patriots style Michael Mayer, Brock Bowers kind of tight end room? They got blockers, catchers. Where are we going?
I mean, who knows? It might work out. We'll see. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I'm still taking Brock Bowers as high. I guess I probably still am. I mean, it's
We
questionable.
wanted the Jets, right? That's what we wanted was the Jets.
Yeah, I think probably wanted it anywhere that already didn't draft a tight end pretty high last year that has a good quarterback situation. But I mean, who knows? I'm not as excited as I was.
So let's say we mostly play Superflex. You're going quarter. He was originally about probably right after those big three receivers, so that would put him about 7 or 8. Where's he now? Same place?
I still think eventually he's in the same place. I mean, especially if it's tight end premium. I can't see him falling out of the top 10. I mean, it's still Brock Bowers. He's still a great prospect. So I think he still goes, where he was at. It just might be a little more of a struggle to open things up in the beginning of his career.
Is Jared Wiley going to take over for Travis Kelce?
Probably not.
Are there any? I know you're not a tight end guy. We're looking here. We got Washington took Sennett, Carolina took Sanders, Giants took Johnson, Stover Houston. Anybody excite you?
I mean, Ben Sano actually excites me a little bit there in Washington. They don't have anybody that in tight. Well, yes, Ertz, he's a little older, but I think a young guy coming in, I think he can set up fine with a nice young quarterback. I mean, they can work, have a great rapport. I think a guy that's kind of sneaky is the tight end out of Iowa. I mean, it's a tight end factory, and plus it's a tight end going to Cincinnati. They don't really have a tight end there. He's got injured the last 2 seasons, but he's impressive. If you're able to play tight end at Iowa, I mean, it's got to mean something. So I think his name is Eric All, by the way. So I think Eric All is somebody, if I'm playing in a tight end premium, I think I'm definitely taking a shot on him, probably before any of these guys.
What's interesting, they follow that up by taking Tanner McLaughlin as well. So they're loading up on tight end for something. They don't want they've seen Joe Burrow get beat up too much is my assumption with what they're looking at there. So yeah, there's about 10 tight ends to look at, see what happens. You never know. I mean, and then you got a kid in New England. It'll be intriguing. Like I'm always excited for tight end, but this year I was kind of like, oh, I might go. You might have me on those two guys, but otherwise, it's like Cade Stover. It's like, man, that kills my love for like he looks pretty good. He looks like a solid player as well, but what's he gonna do in that offense with like 80,000 pass catchers?
I mean, they're tight ends, man. Nobody knows about this mess.
Then let's move on to kickers. Nope. Okay, so that's some of the rookies we're looking in. We'll be talking about these guys, talking about who will go in future in some upcoming episodes about guys whose future was impacted by these guys that could jump off. So the next month or so is all about these guys. Where are they going to go? And you know what? In September, it won't matter because one of these guys could pull their ACL. One of these guys, all of a sudden, Spencer Rattler could all of a sudden be the starting quarterback for the Saints after with Chris Olave. And who knows? He could be Brock Purdy. That would make you puke a little bit. But we never know until we get to the real thing. Right now, we're just having fun. We're living the dream. Eddie, give us some wisdom. Tell us any last thoughts you have on rookies, and let's get out of here.
Yeah, mock draft season. I'm sure all your football sites have mock drafts. Make sure you're doing a couple beatly before you draft. I mean, they only take 3 minutes, and they're kind of fun. Just kind of you get a view of what guys you're going to take and what guys you're not going to take. It's better to know in the third round a few guys that, hey, I'm interested in this guy, and this guy, and this guy, than not knowing anybody at all. At least if you do 1 or 2 drafts, you'd be like, at least you'll remember a name. And at that point in the third round, all you got to do is remember a name, and he has an opportunity to pan out. So I mean, why not do a couple mock drafts along the way? So as always, trust yourself and trust the process.